You ever feel like you're meant for more, but somehow life keeps you stuck in the same loop? You keep waiting for the right time, the perfect plan, or that one magical moment where everything clicks and suddenly you become the person you've always envisioned. But let me tell you something you already know deep down. No one is coming to give you permission. There is no green light. There is no sign from the sky. If you're waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, all right, now it's your turn to win, you're going to wait forever. Because the world doesn't reward the hesitant, it forgets them. It rewards those who decide, those who stop asking and start acting. That's the difference between the people who build something real and the ones who only talk about it. This isn't about hype. This isn't about motivation. This is about waking up and realizing that if you don't take control of your life, someone else will. And they won't build your dream. They'll use you to build theirs. You want to live like the top 1%? Then you need to think like them, move like them, and most importantly, act like them. They didn't wait, they chose. And today, that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to stop waiting for permission and start proving who the fuck you are. Starting now. Stop waiting for permission to become who you know you are. You already know deep inside what you're meant to become. That version of you isn't a fantasy, it's a blueprint that's been screaming at you since the beginning. But what are you doing with it? Most people are waiting for some external signal, some outside confirmation to finally start. They think they need their parents' blessing, a coach to validate them, a mentor to show up, or a sign from the universe that it's their time. What they don't understand is that greatness never knocks politely. It's not given. It's taken by the one who refuses to wait. This mindset of waiting kills more potential than failure ever could. Because when you wait, you're already telling yourself you're not enough yet. You're building a prison with your own thoughts. You're handing over the keys to people who don't even know your vision, who don't even care about it. You think the people around you are going to believe in something you haven't even committed to fully. You think they're going to see you as a winner when you're still moving like a maybe. The world responds to conviction. And conviction isn't loud. It's not hype. It's not a motivational speech. It's silent consistency when no one claps for you. It's saying, I'm going to become that man, that woman, and then backing it up daily with relentless proof. But before any of that can happen, you have to stop waiting. Stop hesitating. Stop thinking that someone's going to give you permission, because no one's going to come and tap you on the shoulder and say, all right, go become the best version of yourself. You either do it or you die with the regret that you didn't. That person you imagine becoming, they're already waiting for you. The power's already in you, but you have to unlock it with action. Not once, not when it's convenient, not when you feel ready. Now, that's the only real moment that exists for people who win. When you finally stop looking for approval and start chasing personal excellence with tunnel vision, something changes in you. You walk different, you speak different, you carry yourself like someone who doesn't need to be told they're good enough because you decided they were. You start showing up earlier, you start training harder, you stop giving excuses and start producing results, and people notice. But more importantly, you notice. You start becoming proud of what you see in the mirror, not because you're perfect, but because you know you're moving with purpose. The longer you wait, the louder the doubts get. The more people box you in. He's just average. She's always been like that. They'll label you by the version of you that never took off. They'll define you by who you were when you were still playing it safe. And you'll either live under that label forever, or break it in silence with action, so undeniable they choke on their words. But that first move, that first shift, it only happens when you stop waiting and start owning. There are people out there who made the decision you're afraid to make. They weren't smarter, they weren't richer, they weren't more talented, they were just done waiting. That's it. That's the only difference. They stopped waiting to be discovered and decided to build something that couldn't be ignored. They became undeniable through obsession, and it all started by realizing that the world doesn't owe them anything, that success doesn't care about potential, it only respects execution. So whatever it is you're holding back on, whether it's starting that business, fixing your body, mastering your craft, you already know what it is. You don't need another reminder. You just need to stop asking for a green light and become the one who creates it. Stop waiting for someone to believe in you. Believe in yourself so loudly that no one has a choice but to see it. And even if they don't, it doesn't matter. You didn't do it for them. You did it because you refused to settle for anything less than the version of you that you know you were born to be. The first win is the hardest, but it redefines your identity. That first win is brutal. It feels like walking blindfolded into a fight with no coach, no fans, and no backup. You've got your own doubts screaming in one ear, the world's expectations in the other, and nothing but your inner voice to guide you. That's why most people never get it. They give up before it even starts feeling real. They want the results, but they don't want to suffer for that first taste of victory. But here's what they don't get. That first win isn't just a trophy. It's a doorway to a completely new version of you. The pain you go through to earn it, that struggle becomes part of you. Every late night, every early morning, every time you worked when others rested, that's what makes the win matter. And when it finally comes, everything shifts. Because now you've proven to yourself that you're not a fraud. You've proved that your standards weren't delusion, they were just untested. That single win rewires how you see yourself. Suddenly, you're not the guy who wants to start a business. You're the guy who made his first $1,000. You're not the kid who wants to get in shape. You're the one who dropped 10 pounds and built momentum. That shift in identity is dangerous, Because now you've got proof, and when you have proof, your confidence becomes unshakable. Most people walk around waiting to feel confident before they act. But the real game is this: act without confidence until your results create it. That's what the first win gives you. It's not about what you gained, it's about what you became. You become someone who knows what it takes, who respects the process, who doesn't flinch when things get hard. Because now you've felt what it's like to push through and come out the other side better, sharper, and more disciplined. You realize that all the pain before the win wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Every single person you look up to had that one moment, the turning point where they pushed through the chaos and tasted what it's like to win. Not a fluke, not luck, a win that came from consistent, boring, thankless effort. That's the win that changes you. Because now you're not just chasing potential anymore. You've tapped it. You've touched the edge of your power, and it becomes addictive. That's why the first win is so important. Because once you feel it, once you earn it, you'll do anything to feel it again. You'll protect your standards. You'll raise your expectations. You'll stop letting average into your life. People around you might still be stuck in the same cycles, but you'll start moving differently. Because you know now. You've seen what happens when you stop talking and start acting. And even when the next battles come, and they will come, you've already built the proof that you can endure, that you can conquer, that your identity is no longer up for negotiation. You don't become elite by thinking about it. You don't build a legacy by hoping for it. It starts with one win that costs more than anyone will ever understand. And that's exactly why it matters so much. You don't need more time, you need a decision. Most people use time as their favorite excuse. They say they need a few more weeks to get ready, a few more months to prepare, a few more years before they really chase what they want. They lie to themselves and call it patience, when really it's just fear with a fake mask. Time is not the problem. You've had enough time. What you haven't had is a real decision. A moment where you looked yourself in the mirror and said, this is it. No more half trying, no more excuses, no more delay. I'm doing this now. Because that one decision, when it's real, makes time irrelevant. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and you start creating it. The people who win in life aren't the ones with the most time. Everyone has the same 24 hours. They win because they decided to use those hours differently. They move with urgency, not panic, not anxiety, urgency. Like someone who knows they're not promised tomorrow and refuses to waste another second being average. A lot of people are stuck not because they lack skill, but because they keep postponing the moment where they go all in. They're living in mental limbo, too scared to commit, too scared to walk away. So they stay stuck. Years go by, potential gets buried under hesitation. There's a difference between planning and procrastination, and deep down you already know which one you're doing. You don't need more clarity, you just need more courage. Because you've already had those moments where your gut told you what to do, and instead of acting, you started overthinking. You tried to calculate every step, control every outcome, and in doing so you stalled. That's what kills momentum. That's what kills greatness. A lack of decisiveness. People want certainty before they move, but the reality is, no big move comes with certainty. The only certainty is the one you build through action. You decide who you are through what you do, not what you say. And when you finally make that decision, not the fake kind, the real one, you don't need motivation. You don't need someone to remind you. You wake up earlier, you eat cleaner, you train harder, you study longer. Because the decision has already been made and everything else is just catching up. You can sit around for years waiting for the right time and you'll still end up right where you started. But the second you draw that line in the sand and say, this is who I am now, everything changes. Even your environment starts to shift. People begin to treat you differently because they can feel that you've changed, not because you said it, but because your energy now demands respect. That's the power of a real decision. It redefines how the world interacts with you. When you look at anyone who's built something great, you'll find that somewhere in their story, there was a line they crossed, a moment where they had nothing but conviction and fire. No backup plan, no guarantees, just a decision that they were done playing small. And from that moment on, everything in their life started aligning to that frequency. If you're still stuck in the same place year after year, it's not because you're unlucky. It's because you haven't made the decision yet. You haven't drawn that hard line. You haven't fully committed. And maybe you've convinced yourself that you're just waiting for the right opportunity. But the truth is, you're waiting for certainty that's never coming. You don't need more time. You need to burn the bridge. You need to get rid of the backup plan. You need to go all in on the version of you that you claim you want to become. That kind of pressure builds diamonds. That kind of energy transforms lives. But it all starts with a decision. Not tomorrow, not later, right now. Proving yourself starts in private, not in public. Most people want to be seen before they've done anything worth seeing. They want applause without effort, recognition without results. But the truth is, proving yourself starts long before anyone notices. It starts in the dark. It starts when you choose to show up when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when no one even knows what you're working on. That's the real proving ground. The world will always wait until you've built something undeniable before it gives you validation. So stop chasing external approval and start building internal integrity. That's when the game changes. When you stop posting every little move you make and start focusing on stacking silent wins. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and start executing so relentlessly that the results speak louder than you ever could. The people who are really dangerous, the ones who shake industries and change lives, they didn't start by going viral. They started by becoming lethal in private, mastering their craft when no one knew their name, honing their mindset when no one was listening, working long hours in silence while everyone else was distracted. That's where it starts. That's where real power is born. Because when you're proving yourself in private, you're not motivated by likes, views, or applause. You're driven by something deeper, something unshakable. You're doing it because you made a promise to yourself, and that promise becomes sacred. It becomes your code, and that code, it's what keeps you going when things get hard. It's what keeps you disciplined when you feel tired. It's what pushes you through the plateaus, through the boredom, through the doubt. That private war you fight with yourself is what builds the kind of character that can't be bought, faked, or copied. You know why most people fall off after they get some attention? Because they were performing for the crowd, not building for themselves. They thought the public stage would give them identity. But if you haven't proved yourself in private, the public will expose you. You'll crumble under pressure because you skip the most important phase, the lonely phase, the silent phase, the phase where it's just you, your work, and your standards. When you build in private, you don't have to fear being found out. You want the world to test you because you've already passed harder tests when no one was watching. You've already shown up on days where no one would have blamed you for quitting. That's what makes you dangerous. That's what gives you the edge. You don't become powerful by being seen. You become powerful by doing the work when no one's looking. By building proof so deep within yourself that you no longer need to prove it to anyone else. And ironically, that's when the world starts paying attention. When you stop needing it, when you stop chasing it, and you start embodying it. Real success doesn't start with a microphone, a camera, or a spotlight. It starts in silence, in discomfort, in a room with no noise, just grind, just obsession, just personal excellence with zero spectators. And that's why most people will never get it, because they can't handle the quiet. They need to be seen too early, validated too often, congratulated too fast. But the ones who win, the real ones, they're silent killers. They disappear to improve. They vanish to rebuild. They don't prove themselves with words. They prove it with results. That's the kind of life that doesn't need to announce itself. Because the impact becomes so loud, the world has no choice but to listen.
Discipline begins when motivation dies. Motivation feels good. It gives you that rush, that temporary high where everything seems possible. You watch a video, hear a speech, feel fired up, and for a moment, you actually believe that you're about to change your life. And sometimes, you even do something about it. You hit the gym, open a book, make a plan, but then it fades. Motivation always fades. It's not designed to last. It's a spark, not a flame. And the truth is, most people live and die by their emotions. So when that motivation disappears, so does their effort. They stop showing up. They stop executing. They convince themselves that the timing isn't right or that they'll try again later when they feel it again. But the people who actually make something out of themselves, the people who build legacies and outwork generations, they figured something out early. Discipline is the only thing that matters once motivation dies, because motivation is emotional, but discipline is a decision, a system, a code you live by, whether it feels good or not. You don't train because you're motivated. You train because you're disciplined. You don't build your business because you're in the mood. You build it because you said you would. It's identity. It's who you are now. Most people confuse being consistent with being motivated, but that's never how it works. The best in the world are not motivated every day. They just don't need to be. They built systems. They trained their minds to execute regardless of emotion, because they understand that the cost of letting their feelings decide their actions is a wasted life, a diluted legacy, and that's not a price they're willing to pay. There's a moment in everyone's journey when the excitement runs out, when you don't want to go anymore, when it's cold, you're tired, your friends are out partying, and no one would blame you if you quit. That's the moment most people collapse. They say things like, I'll just take one day off, or I'll restart next week, or I've been working hard, I deserve a break. And just like that, the momentum dies, the progress vanishes, and they're back to square one, chasing the next motivational fix, thinking the problem is the lack of inspiration when it's really a lack of discipline. The edge belongs to the person who keeps going when there's no hype, the one who trains at 5 a.m. in silence, the one who puts in reps when it's boring, the one who doesn't need a camera to hold them accountable. You want to become someone who doesn't need external pressure, because internal pressure is stronger. You build that when you stop waiting to feel like doing it and start doing it no matter what. When you stop making decisions based on your emotions and start making them based on your standards. Discipline is painful at first. It's rigid. It feels like a cage. But over time, it becomes freedom. Because now you're not a slave to your moods. You're not controlled by your doubts. You're the one in charge. And that kind of control over yourself, that's power. That's the foundation every successful person stands on. Eventually, motivation will disappear. That's a fact. And when it does, your results will expose whether you were built on hype or built on discipline. Whether you were pretending to be serious or you actually are. Whether you were committed to a lifestyle or just chasing a phase. That's why discipline will always win. Because it's quiet, it's invisible, but it delivers. It's not sexy, but it's strong. It doesn't post, it performs. It doesn't talk, it transforms. You will never outperform the standard you tolerate. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of your standards. Not your goals, not your dreams, your standards. The non-negotiables you live by when no one is watching. The boundaries you draw for yourself when there's no external pressure. That's the real game. You can say you want to be elite, you can talk about success all day, but if your standard allows for laziness, excuses, shortcuts, your life will reflect that. Most people don't fail because they aim too high and miss. They fail because they aim low and hit. They set standards that are comfortable, easy, socially acceptable. They say things like, I did my best, when deep down they know they left effort on the table. They normalize mediocrity and then wonder why nothing in their life feels extraordinary. If you keep tolerating subpar effort, you'll keep getting subpar results. That's not a mystery, that's math. You have to raise your internal minimum, your minimum level of discipline, your minimum level of training, your minimum level of execution. That's what dictates your outcome. You'll never outperform the things you allow. If you allow distractions, you'll stay distracted. If you allow weakness, you'll stay weak. If you allow procrastination, you'll stay broke. And it's not because you aren't talented, it's because your tolerance for underperformance is too high. Look around. Every area of your life right now is a reflection of what you tolerate. Your body, your income, your environment, your relationships. It's all built on your standards. If you tolerate inconsistency, you'll see it everywhere. If you tolerate chaos, your schedule will reflect it. If you tolerate excuses, your life will become one long excuse. That's why nothing changes until your standard changes. Until you raise the bar so high that anything below it becomes unacceptable. And here's the truth. People will try to lower your standard because it exposes theirs. The moment you decide to stop tolerating weakness, laziness, gossip, sloppiness, they'll call you extreme. They'll say you're doing too much. That's because your presence forces them to confront their comfort. Don't lower your standard to fit into small circles. Raise your circle to match your standard. Setting high standards isn't about being perfect, it's about being aligned. It's about creating a code you refuse to break, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because pressure will always reveal whether your standards were real or just words. When things get messy, when life punches you in the mouth, when everything's on the line, your standards are what hold you up. Not motivation, not goals, standards. The best part? Once you truly raise your standard, everything else starts to align. You stop tolerating average in your routine, and your results sharpen. You stop tolerating drama in your relationships, and your peace improves. You stop tolerating distraction in your schedule, and your productivity skyrockets. It's not about doing more, it's about allowing less. Less chaos, less weakness, less softness disguised as rest. There's a reason elite performers live differently. They don't tolerate what average people do. They don't let themselves off the hook. They don't sleep in just because they're tired. They don't skip reps just because no one's watching. Their standard is what keeps them locked in, dialed up, unshakable. And you can't buy that. You can't fake it. You build it day by day by refusing to compromise, no matter what's going on around you. The moment you decide that your standard is going to rise is the moment your life begins to rise with it. Not instantly, not overnight, but consistently. Because now the floor is higher. Your bare minimum is stronger than most people's maximum. And from there, everything becomes possible. Not because of some magic formula, but because you stopped letting yourself be average. You stopped allowing low-level behavior. You stopped tolerating the version of you that was built on weakness. And now you're building from a place of power. When you finally stop performing for the crowd, when you finally stop trying to be accepted, when you finally cut the noise and do it for you, that's when everything starts clicking. You don't need to post about your grind. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need their permission, their praise, their validation. You've already won the only battle that matters, the one between you and the version of you that used to quit. And now your life isn't based on hype, it's based on evidence. Real, undeniable, painful evidence that you've built this brick by brick, scar by scar, rep by rep. That's why they respect you now. That's why your presence hits different. Because you are different. Not because someone gave it to you. Not because you got lucky. But because you earned it when no one was clapping. You proved it to the only person that ever mattered. And now the world moves around you, not the other way around.